We've been advised, you've been told what any Democratic senators have been advised to do by our staff at this hearing.
Right. So when I met individually with the 65 senators, including almost every member of the committee, a lot of the senators, a lot of you in the meetings told me issues you were interested in. I think your staff was probably talking to.
No, but has anybody said to you, for example, Senator Leahy's staff is asking him to do this at the hearing tomorrow?
Well, I think you yourself told me what you were going to ask. So
I try to give you a good heads up, and I appreciate the meeting. But has anybody else told you this is what Leahy's staff is asking him to ask at the hearing tomorrow?
Again, I think this might be a different kind of process because you all were very transparent when I met with you. I'm looking around and saying, here's what I'm focused on, and here's what I'm going to ask you at the hearings. And it's turned out you were accurately telling me your concerns.
Okay. And you're saying that's normal, but did anybody hand you anything marked highly confidential
for this
about any one of these senators?
No, I'm not remembering anything like that, but you all did talk about the issues. In other words, there are no surprises. Well, they're not no surprises, but there are, you gave me a basic concerns and issues you want to
I want to make
raise.
sure we're clear on this. Yeah. Nobody handed you something marked highly confidential, but that is the material you received from Manny Miranda. For example, on July 18, 2002, days before an extremely controversial hearing for Fifth Circuit nominee Priscilla Owen, Mr. Miranda sent you an email with the subject line, highly confidential. Informed you that Senator Biden's staff was asking him not to attend the meeting that day. On March 18th, 2003, Mr. Miranda sent you several pages of talking points that were stolen verbatim from Democratic files. The talking points revealed what arguments Democrats were making on another controversial nominee, Miguel Estrada. The subject line of the email stated it was not for distribution, meaning Mr. Miranda was asking you not to share the information. This has now been, as of 3 o'clock this morning, made public. So yesterday when I asked you about these specific events, you said you didn't have any recollection. So I'm not going to ask if you remember receiving this email. I'm going to ask you this. Why would you ever be asked to keep secret Democratic talking points if they were legitimately obtained?
I am looking at these, Senator, and it says, for example, it looks like Biden's staff is asking him not to attend the hearing. I don't know why that.
But look how you received it.
I know, I don't know why that's even confidential because it.
Whether it is or not, would you consider that somewhat unusual to be receiving from a Republican staff member something marked highly confidential, telling him what he's found out the Democrats going to do?
Well, as I explained yesterday, Senator, my understanding of this process is that the staffs do talk with one another, that they're not camps with no communication. And that was my experience when I worked in the White House. And so it looks like Biden's staff is asking him not to attend the hearing would have been pretty standard kind of information that would be.
Well, not really. You read this, I would be amazed if somebody handed me a memo saying this is a confidential memo that Senator Grassley's staff has prepared for him. I not only would not read it, I'd be on the phone immediately to Senator Grassley, say, I'm bringing something over that just arrived to me, you better take a look at it. But you received, on July 28, 2002, an email from Manny Miranda that said, my staff distributed a confidential letter to Democratic councils, not to Republicans. Mr. Miranda said, I received that letter in the strictest confidence. You were asked explicitly by Mr. Miranda to take no action on the email without his further instructions. He never asked him how he obtained a letter sent in strict confidence to me. And then July 30th, 2002, you received an email from Miranda saying the head on 100% info that I was convening a meeting about a controversial nominee, and then further in August 13, 2002, emailing obviously taken from my internal emails what I was going to do. Did any of this raise a red flag in your mind?
It did not, Senator, because it all seemed consistent with the usual kinds of discussions that happen. And sometimes people do say things of, here's what my boss is thinking, but don't share it around. I mean, I must have had, so many conversations in the course of my life like that, where someone's saying like that about something. In other words, trying to give you a heads up on something. And that just seems standard Senate staff. So nothing, the direct answer to your question is, for example, looks like Biden's staff's not asking him not to attend the hearing. That wouldn't have raised anything at all for me other than
Not even where it came from. On June 5th, 2003, you received an email from a Republican Senate staffer with the subject line, spying. That is not overly subtle. This staffer appears in over 1,000 documents we received together with both you and Mr. Miranda. She says she has a mole for us, and so forth. None of this raised a red flag with you?
It did not, Senator. Again, people have friends across the aisle who they talk to. At least this was my experience back then. Maybe it's changed. And there was a lot of bipartisanship on the committee. There was a lot of bipartisanship among the staffs. There were a lot of friendships and relationships where people would talk to, I've got a friend on Ted Kennedy's staff, or I have a friend on Senator Hatch's staff, or I have a friend on Senator Specter's staff. That kind of conversation and information sharing was common. So it did not raise the flags.
Judge, I was born at night, but not last night. And if I had something that somebody said, we've stolen this, or this is how, don't tell anybody we have this, I think it would raise some red flags. Now, we only have a fraction of your record, and I do thank the chairman for opening us up at 3 this morning. But as you know, the president has asserted executive privilege, the first time we've had to face this up here on a nominee from either Republicans or Democrats, of 102,000 pages of material, 102,000 from just your time in the White House. That includes a lot on judicial nominations. Can you confirm for me today that in that 102,000 pages, there are no emails from Mr. Miranda marked highly confidential or do not share or take no action on this, describing what he has found out the Democrats are thinking?
Senator, I am not involved in the documents process, so I don't know what's in them.
Well, that is convenient. But we don't know what's in them either, because we've never had so much withheld before. We don't know what's in all of the documents. They're still being gone through by the archives because this is being rushed through and we don't get a chance to see them. That's not fair to us, and frankly, Judge, it's not fair to you. You've probably been told you have the votes to be confirmed, so you don't have to care. But I care. I care about the integrity of the Supreme Court. I care about who's on there. I think you should care what's in that, just as we should care what's in it. There are even more documents than I had time to discuss today. I find it impossible to reconcile what you're regularly being told, that your testimony that you received nothing stolen, had no reason to suspect anything was stolen, when, frankly, as we now know, the Republican staffer, Manny Miranda, stole things. And some of the things he stole went directly to you.